Hey everyone, thank you so much for joining us for this week's conversation. I'm actually a huge fan of what you guys are about to listen to. Taylor and I got off of this call with Garrett Richardson, who is a destination wedding photographer with just the kindest heart of anyone like you could ever meet. Like, so genuinely kind, so intentional with his clients in everything that he does. Taylor, what did you think of our chat with Garrett?
I love it. Actually, like when we stopped recording, I was telling him, I was like, I think this is such a unique conversation, and I've never heard anyone talk about the wedding industry in quite the same way that we approached this conversation. So I'm really excited for you guys to hear our interview. But before we get into that, Kelly, we just finished week 2 of our very first luxury filmmaker mastermind. Today we talked about branding and websites with 30 wedding filmmakers, and I'm just like so excited. It's so much fun seeing everyone's face every week. And yeah, how's it going for you?
This has been the most incredible experience, and the core group, this founding group that I've been calling them, just filled with so many great filmmakers ready to learn, ready to change their business. Like, I'm so inspired by their eagerness and their moldability. They're like really ready for something new, and I'm just so proud of them. I'm actually working on some little welcome boxes for all of them, and I've been handwriting notes to each of them. My hand is out of writing shape, so I'm like, it's like, if you're on YouTube, it's like all like, you can see my hands like all like messed. That's like how I feel like it is. But it's just, I don't know. I've just been honestly loving this whole entire experience. If you guys, maybe some of you guys joined us for our free workshop, The Road to Luxury, and from there we invited those who are ready to just make a huge step in their business, really make 2024 different than any other year that they've had previously. And we had some that elected for the self-paced course, which our course is Luxury Filmmaker Framework, and then the 30 others that have joined Luxury Filmmaker Mastermind. It's been incredible. And we also have some VIP coaching students too, who we're working with them over the next 6 months. So it's just a lot of fun things happening.
Yeah. Yeah, it's really cool and very inspiring and really fun to kind of like tug everyone kind of along with us. We want everyone to have a business that thrives, like financially, creatively in all of these ways. And this is the luxury market is the answer to a lot of people's businesses thriving in this way. So we'll get into the interview in just a second, but we do want to be like super transparent with what we're doing. And so we do plan to open the doors again in February of 2024. So if joining Luxury Filmmaker Mastermind or buying Luxury Filmmaker Framework is something that you weren't able to do this last time, just know that this is coming in whatever 7-8 months from now, and so it's just around the corner, so we can kind of all plan for it, and we'll keep reminding people, because I know, at least I don't know about you, Kelly, but like I set aside like a certain amount of money every year to invest in like education for myself. And so if this is like something that you feel is calling to you, you can know what to plan for it, and we're not going to like spring it on you at like a weird time of year where you're like, I didn't know, like I just bought this thing and now I can't do it. So we want to make sure it's accessible. So um
Yeah,
yeah.
and you guys can actually join the wait list if you want to be the first ones to know when the doors open for that, because we only do a select number within our mastermind group. We really want that to be like a very core exclusive group. So we limit that to 30 filmmakers, and you can join the wait list. What's the wait list URL, Taylor?
I think it's course dash waitlist. So the level up co forward slash levelcode.com/course dash waitlist, I think, but it will be in the show notes. So you can go check that out. Or if you land on the levelupco.com and scroll down, there's actually a link that'll take you to the waitlist page. So it's really easy to find. But our seats filled out really, or like sold out really, really fast with this last launch. And now that people know it's around, like I do kind of expect it to sell out faster. So if this is something that you're thinking about, like jumping on the wait list is really smart, so that like the seats don't get picked up before you have a chance to enroll. So we do
Yeah.
encourage that.
Yeah, and we'd love to see you guys inside. Again, this is a huge heart that Taylor and I have for helping others, helping them rise. Sorry, this is such a long intro, but anyways, please consider it for next year if you really want to make huge changes in your business. We'd love to have you. So enjoy this episode with Garrett.
This is the Level Up Podcast. I'm Taylor Petrinovich.
And I'm Kelly Gilster of 618 Studios.
And we are on a mission to help filmmakers level up their businesses and their craft so they can make more and work less.
We want to help you confidently take your business from mainstream to luxury, and it all starts right here. Well, hey, Garrett, thank you so much for joining this week's conversation. We are so excited to hear from you and learn more about your business. How are you today?
I'm doing so good. Thanks, Kelly. How are you doing?
Good. We're in July now. We had a wedding last weekend up in Monterey. I mean, this summer is pretty light for us. Like, it was really heavy in the spring and really heavy. It's going to be really heavy in the fall, but we sort of have a little bit of a summer. I don't know how your year is panning out.
Yeah, very similar. So my wife and I, we've got 2 young kids, and we're actually expecting our third any day. So we're recording this right now, 10 days prior to her due date. And our other kids came a week and a half early. So I'm really excited that we're having this conversation before the little guy comes. And I've got July off all together. So I'm excited to just spend time with family.
That's cool. Amazing. Life is gonna get a little crazy, speaking as a mom to 3. Congratulations. It's crazy, but it's still crazy.
Yeah, Taylor, thank you. I know it's all good. It's so fun. I wouldn't have it any other way. So.
And then remind me, your kids are all pretty close together, right?
Yep. So our son Ryder is 4, our daughter Selah is 2, and then this little guy will be 2 years, all 2 years apart. So yeah, just going for the fire, just keeping it.
I love it.
Keeping it real. Yeah.
I love it. Do you know if you're having a boy or girl?
A boy.
I don't think I've asked. Okay, cool.
Yep. Yeah.
Awesome.
Boy, girl, boy. So yeah, we're pumped.
So sweet. Yeah. Well, Garrett, we're excited to talk to you today. I know that your business originally started in California, was San Diego specifically, right?
That's right. Yep. San Diego, Orange County, LA is kind of the most places that I shot. And I was there for 13 years. And for my business, I was there for about 9 years. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's so cool. And now you're doing a ton of destination work. You aren't shooting locally as much anymore, and you're just traveling all throughout the country, correct?
That's right. Yep. So in 2020, that was 9 years into my business. My family and I moved across the country to Nashville, Tennessee. And that really opened up a door for so many opportunities when it came to destination work, because I was no longer just based in California. I had access to a whole nother market, meaning the East Coast and really anywhere in the country. And so the more that clients saw me traveling back to California and parts of Arizona and Napa and all that, it kind of just began this process of like, Garrett's no longer just a San Diego photographer who occasionally travels, but he's like a solely destination photographer, which we can kind of dive into how that impacted my business for the better in a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, let's talk about it now, because I'm so curious. You talked to us a little bit about how you have tripled your prices, right, in 3 years?
Doubled. I would love to triple them.
Yeah,
that sounds awesome. Yeah, so I was at 10,000 for 8 hours of coverage, two shooters in the gallery back in, well, really when I moved. That was how I was marketing myself to planners out here. And I candidly share this because I feel like I kind of, in a sense, shot myself in the foot, because I came out here and I was like, this is my pricing, like, just want to keep my business moving forward, especially with such a huge move in such a weird year. And I realized that, with my experience and my connections and my portfolio and all those things, like after talking to several planners in the industry who I really trust, who know me, they're like, Garrett, you need to raise your rates. So I jumped up to 15 in like a year. And then I jumped up to 20 in the last few months. So really in the course of like 3 years, I've went from 10 to 20. And that was the most acceleration I've experienced in my business. And it's working great, like booking clients that I love working with. And I get to travel to really special locations to shoot them now. So it's been fun.
That's really cool.
Yeah.
I'd love to hear a little bit, when we're talking to a lot of filmmakers that are looking to elevate their business and making big changes, also doubling their rates. How did that look with some of the planners that you had relationships with when you started more at that $10,000 range? And now you find yourself at 20, like, do you feel like those relationships were not lost per se, but like put on pause for a bit?
Yeah, that's a very good question. Something I kind of wrestle with, because there's a few planners in mind that I really love working with. Like the weddings that they create are beautiful. Like, you know, certain weddings you can just tell that's like a $10,000 photography package, and there's, you know, but there's some, like I have a planner that I work with a lot, and she's a San Diego based planner, and you know, she we did a $600,000 budget wedding in 2021. Like, so she does great stuff. It's not a matter of I think it just takes a little bit more education on her end now. Is like, okay, well, these are the three photographers that I typically refer. Like, that's kind of how it works with her. She works with just a very set number of photographers. And now it's kind of takes for her to learn, how can I now educate my clients on why Garrett is worth what he's asking, you know? And it's happened a couple times. I'm going to get less inquiries from her, of course, because that's just naturally how it works. But it's opened the door to work with people who would never hire me if I charge less than 20,000, if that makes sense. I literally had a conversation with a planner who was like, I'm sorry, I can't refer anyone to someone who's less than 20. So that was a really huge indicator for me to like, yep, just time to jump up. So
yeah, I kind of like how you just said, like, you now have access to clients at this price bracket who would never consider you before. And I think that's like such a mindset shift that a lot of people, so our audience is primarily filmmakers, but we do have a lot of photographers who listen to, and actually some planners.
Yeah. Love it.
But it's such a thing, because we're so used to being taught that like people that we're serving operate the way we do, where maybe like, I don't know, I'm not like super wealthy, right? So like, so a lot of my like purchasing decisions are based on price, but that's not the world that these people live in. And in fact, it's probably opposite. Maybe they want the most expensive option because they think it's the best.
Right.
So do you want to talk on that a little bit?
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, I've noticed that for sure. Like, you have to be at a certain level price wise. Like, I know KT Mary, she talks a lot about like pricing is your marketing strategy, you know. Pricing is marketing is kind of what she says. And so I've started to really reposition myself. Even recently, like I just brought on a really, really talented web designer and kind of message designer to help reformat my website. I think my website's great. I redid it all in 2019 before I moved out here, and I love it. But it's kind of that time again to like reposition how I want my messaging to come across, because I'm totally working with a different client than I was 3 years ago, like massively different client. So it takes a lot more effort to think psychologically what their needs are and how you can reach them, you know, simplifying things, not, you know, going over the top. There's a lot that we could unpack from a design perspective and a messaging perspective of how to reach those clients. And that's been a big shift for me to learn how to speak to them and how to interact with them, and what their needs are. They're all different across the board. So
yeah.
Totally. And that's so great too, because we're right now in the midst of our first mastermind group, and all of our students this week, we were diving heavily into branding, and we were talking about all the same things that you were talking about. Like, you really need to speak through to your ideal client in the way, and the fact that you said that you're working with a totally different client than you were 3 years ago, that's amazing. Like, everyone, like your copy and your messaging should be ever evolving with the client who you're working with, right? And we really should be updating our websites every 3 years. The wedding industry, as you know, from a design perspective, the way that, you know, things move from tradition to other things, like it's a very fast paced like industry, and to keep up with the way that the direction's heading as far as trends go and things like that, you kind of have to update those every few years.
Definitely. I mean, images, obviously, right? That's like the number one. That's what we do. But really showing the visual content in a way that reflects what they're wanting. And there's some, I think, pros and cons. Like, I don't want to be so forward thinking that I'm always evolving to the trends of the day, because my work and y'all's work is very timeless and not editorial, but just beautiful. You know, it's lovely. Whereas I think there's a lot of major trends right now in the market that have shifted so quickly. Like, I don't know if our audience would agree, but like, I've just noticed photography specifically, there's so much more variety right now. I think more than ever, you know, when it comes to like stylistic. And so I've just tried to stick true to who I am, but update and elevate that look, if that makes sense.
Yeah. I mean, when you get into it for so long, and like, I think sometimes it's easier to fall into trends when you're newer in your business, because you haven't really found your way just yet. But, you know, for you, it's 13 years for you, right? And 13 years for us too. I mean, we now stay pretty traditional because we've
Yep.
seen the trends come and
Yep.
go over time. And I'm not saying that like no one can lean into any trend in particular, but
Right.
I just always advise people to really stay rooted at their core of
Mhm.
who they are, and don't get, like don't get stay in that tunnel vision. Don't get distracted by like all these other trends that are happening, because
Right.
that can kind of also start to deter who your ideal client is at your core, if that makes sense.
Absolutely. Yeah. And don't get me wrong, there's so much luxury. There's so much like there's so many luxury weddings happening that photographers can access if they're kind of doing that trend, finding that trend. But I don't know. For me personally, I just love the traditional style, like meaning, clear images that aren't overly styled, 10, 15, 20, 30 years from now, you're gonna look back and like, no, that looks amazing. It doesn't look like it was stuck in 2023.
Yeah.
And no harm, no foul. Like I love the diversity of images these days. Like it's what allows us to be distinct and stand out. And I think that's what's most important, is to be true to who you are, so that clients will be like, oh, like I love Garrett's work and it's consistent. Clients are looking for consistency across the board. They want to know that they can trust that this guy's going to shoot my wedding in the way that he shot, these 5 other weddings that I've seen. So
Yeah, there's so
yeah,
much trust, like a huge trust factor in that. I think it can
major.
be really, I think sometimes too people are like, "Oh, what if I decide like I want to be shooting a different way?" But
Mm-hmm.
like the clients booked me a year ago when my style
Yeah,
was something totally different. Like that can be a
totally.
hard line to, be
It,
on.
it really can. And, early in my career, to your point about changing styles, like I was all over the map with like presets and profiles and all the things. And my wife was like, Garrett, you need to stop changing your look and just do it over and over again the same way. Cause it's, I think as creatives, we can get like bored, we can get like lack of satisfaction. And we're trying to figure out our true identity as like creators, like what hill do we want to die on, in terms of like the look and all of that. But ultimately it's just about what's going to be timeless and true and tell the story of the day. And I love where I'm at. Like I feel very satisfied, and that's a good encouraging place to be. But probably took me about 13 years to get here. So yeah.
I hear you on that. So,
Yeah.
one of the things, Garrett, because I've worked with you a number of times now, and I just have to say that I have, even though you're filming these luxury weddings, you
Mhm.
have such a personal connection still with your clients. I feel you're so intentional
Mhm.
with reading a room constantly, checking in with like the emotions on the wedding day, and
Yeah.
I've always really admired like how intentional
Mhm.
you are, and I'd love to just hear a little bit more on your take on that. Like, how do you approach that? Why is that something that is huge in a
Mhm.
client's experience with you?
Yeah. Wow. So grateful that you just shared all that. Like I love that. Intentionality is like the number one thing that I'm shooting for, when it comes to the client experience, from everything from like the second they step on the website to working with me on the wedding day, to follow up after. Like I just want people to feel really taken care of. One of my big like mission statements, it's not my mission statement, but it's a big part of my brand, is for people to feel truly seen, authentically known, and genuinely cared for. Like as humans, we're wired for connection. Doesn't matter how much money you have, doesn't matter how much fame. Like if you're a football player, an actress, like, you hire people to come on your day, which is a very vulnerable thing to begin with. Like who knows what kind of family dysfunction you're walking into, what image challenges they have with how they look, or what status or whatever like they're trying to achieve. If you can get in there and just be a human and connect with them on a human level that allows them to feel seen and known and understood, like gosh, what a gift that you can give people. And so I just try to be that in any circumstance. Like doesn't matter what level of status they are. Like people are people at the end of the day. I shot a wedding for a professional golfer who's huge, and I don't follow golf very well. So it didn't really matter to me. But, he was a very normal guy. And I think we can oftentimes like try to, we like put these people on pedestals like, oh, they need certain treatment, which some of them do expect certain things from people. But we are in the trenches with them on the day. Like we are in every moment, every emotion, things can come up for people. And if I, like you said, can read the room, see emotions, kind of help guide them and make them feel like I'm their biggest cheerleader, their biggest fan, it will make or break the wedding day. So we can kind of hop into some of the ways that I do that, but that's kind of an intro of why it's important, I think.
Yeah. Can we dig in? I
Yes,
kind of want to
let's
like
do
let
it.
you talk and like just soak it all in.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you're like so well spoken. And yeah,
Oh,
let's just
cool.
start. Well, first,
Mm-hmm.
one of the biggest hangups that I think a lot of people have when they elevate their business into more, beyond the mainstream market, beyond the budget market, where you're
Mm-hmm.
doing a lot more hand holding with your clients, right? I think all of
Yes,
us
big
in
time.
those first 5 years, you're meeting at the coffee shops, you're
Yep.
really getting to know them, you're doing all that stuff.
Yep.
Now, we aren't really talking much with our clients in before the wedding day. What's
Mm-hmm.
the approach that you take on that,
Mm-hmm.
now that you're serving like more of a high wealth client and working with luxury planners?
Yeah, that's a challenge. I actually had a conversation with another photographer who's local to Nashville, and he's just like in that similar mindset, like really loves that hands-on experience, like loves the connection and loves the coffee dates and all that. And like I love that, but at some point you're going to reach a level price-wise where you're just going to jump out of that space. Like people that have that kind of money, they don't necessarily need to or want to meet up with you, or even like I've shot so many weddings in the last year where I've never met the client until the wedding day, or even spoken to some of them, and that's a weird experience because you're expected to perform at a level that will do those things that we just talked about, make them feel seen, known, and genuinely cared for. How do you do that in like minutes of meeting someone? And you've got the day's already unfolding, you've got the getting ready and the first look and the family photos and the ceremony. There's a lot of practical timeline logistics, but like mashed all together. So how do you find those moments to sort of like, it's almost like getting a massage, like, to get into like the muscles and like kind of work on the deeper parts of what makes someone human, and I think sometimes there's clients that don't necessarily need like this super tight connection with their photographer, videographer. But there are certainly some that do. And there's a guy named Sam who's big in the wedding industry. His company's ID Action Consulting. Some of you may have heard of him or used him. And he breaks down the personality types, especially for like buyers, into 4 categories. And I've actually used this for myself when it comes to like the the phone call before you book the client, and then on the wedding day. But I'll just share a little bit about those 4 buyer types. And I think it'll help us dig into how to relate to people really quickly, if that's okay. So the first one is the dreamer. The second one is the relator. The third is the boss. And the fourth is the analyzer. So I always think of the dreamer as the people that are big on ideas. They might create Pinterest boards, even though they're like a luxury client, or at least have access to an Instagram, grid that they've created. They're like, I really want you to take this and run with this. The relator, they're going to be big on relationships. Their family may be really important to them. Their bridesmaids or groomsmen, like they may go way back, back to like kindergarten. I've had a groom recently had like a kindergarten best man. I was like, that's amazing. The boss is like all about action. They just want to get stuff done. And the analyzer is big on information. They want to know the timeline and like, when's the best time to do the first look, and where should we, put our ceremony spot, facing the sun or away, So the more you can figure out who you're speaking to, who you're working with early on in the relationship, I think the better you can relate to that client, if that makes sense.
That's so cool. Taylor, have you heard about this? I've never heard of this. I'm like mind blown.
No. So Sam Jacobs, like he does have a
Correct.
podcast too. And I listen here and there.
Yep.
And I've actually seen this episode when I'm like scrolling through, like trying to like pick what I want to listen to on a drive. And I haven't clicked on this one yet, but maybe I will after we're done.
Yeah. Yeah, it's honestly been really helpful for me. And I want to share his info because I've gotten a lot of value from what he's done in his work. But I've found that the more we can understand our clients quickly, you've heard it, like you can figure out within 20 seconds if you're going to hire someone in an interview, you know, the psychology behind understanding people quickly. And I've tried to really apply that to my business, because when you walk into a room, you know, you've got a bride who's getting ready, you know, a mom who's, there's just a lot going on. Like
A
there's,
lot.
it's kind of chaotic. Let's be real. Right.
Right.
And there's sometimes fear involved. There's like anxiety, there's so much stress. And so I try to figure out like, what's the biggest problem in that moment? And then how can I solve it? You know, is the bride, is she calm? Is she chill? Great. Like that's amazing. But if she's not, how can we maximize this moment to just come alongside her and make her feel seen, known, and cared for? So for example, you know, maybe she's nervous that, you know, her parents are divorced, and there's just a lot of tension. Or, you know, I'll tell this example. Actually, this is a great one. So I walked into a getting ready room within the last 6 months, and the mom of the groom was there at the bridal suite, and she pulled me aside right when I got there. And I've never had this happen. She's like, can we go talk in the bathroom? I was like, okay, sure. So like, it's just her and me. And she just starts to weep. And I met her at the rehearsal dinner the night before, so we had a little bit of a connection, but she starts to cry. And I'm just sitting there with her. And she just shares with me how deep the like sore is, the pain between her and her ex-husband, and how, you know, in 2 hours we're gonna all be together. And she's like, I haven't seen him in years. My kids are gonna be there. How can we figure out a way to not make this awkward for them? She just felt so concerned about how they would experience it, how her son was gonna experience that moment. And so I just like, within a moment, was like, I got you. Like, we're gonna figure this out. She felt known. She felt heard. And she felt like, I'm not crazy for feeling these things, you know? And so, so we figured out a plan where my second shooter had her ex-husband like in a totally different space, but in the same area, taking photos of him and his new wife. And then, you know, I took photos with the mom, and we found a way to like have them come in together, and then boom, they're out. They didn't have to see each other. They didn't have to spend time awkwardly standing next to each other. And so I just think thinking on your feet, figuring out how can you see people in their pain and help shift the atmosphere in their mind. Like it's all in your head, right? And so so just, yeah, taking care of her, making sure she felt loved on. And man, she was like my biggest fan after that. And that wasn't a way to share how awesome I am. It's just like our role as photographers, videographers, planners, whatever you are, florists, like you have such an important role to solve problems on a wedding day. You're not just there to create beauty, although that's like why we're hired. And so I think when you do that, people walk away with like this feeling of just like, wow, like I'm so grateful that I hired this person. They gave me so much more than I even thought. And I just felt like this problem that was plaguing me is no longer there. And it's a beautiful way to lift off stuff from people, especially on one of the most important days in their life, you know?
Yeah. So videographers are semi-notorious. You probably know this, for just being like very honed in on their craft and like what they're creating, that some may have a reputation for like not being able to read the room or be flexible or come at it from like a service perspective. And I get it. Like specifically for video, like there's just so many moving parts. Like there's audio, you know what I mean? Like there's a lot, but like
it's very technical.
So this is a great reminder to like remember that like you're not being hired just to create a film or photos for your clients. Like you're there truly to like add to the experience of the day and not to detract from it. And to like be flexible in how you approach things. Like some people may be very like stuck in their ways, or this is how they do things, and like they're very inflexible. But like part of like rising within the industry is like being really open to changes and flexible and taking a customized approach instead of like a cookie cutter one. And so I think that that's a really great example that you shared. Like maybe that didn't go with like your normal flow for like setting up family portraits, but like that's
Definitely
okay.
not.
And it was worth going above and beyond like for this client because you created a great experience. So that actually brings us to our Luxury Insider tip of the day, brought to you by Wedding Post House. Wedding Post House is a post-production company for wedding filmmakers who handles all of your culling and multicam syncing. Kelly has used them and had a great experience, but they offer really fast turnaround times. They'll get all of your stuff back to you within a week. And they're available on Final Cut, Premiere, and DaVinci Resolve. And we actually have a coupon code for you to get 10% off of your first time using them. And their code is level up 10. I can never remember the 10, but there is a 10 in there, all lowercase. Hop on over to weddingposthouse.com. And we're in the thick of wedding season. So this is a really great way to kind of help you along your backlog. I have like 5 weddings that still need to be edited. And so if you're in a similar position, you may want to use this to kind of speed that process up. But Garrett, we would love to hear your luxury insider tip.
Yeah, I mean, I alluded to it a little bit earlier, but just the idea that we are not just creatives, but we're problem solvers. Like, I think at the end of the day, the more you can identify what are the problems on the wedding day and how you can solve them, gosh, you're going to provide such a greater service to your couples than just creating beautiful images. And when you solve those problems, you set yourself up for so much more success. You know, they're not hindered by, oh my gosh, like my veil keeps flying in my face, or deeper issues like my, relational issues with family that are there. Like, if you can sort of clear their mind, clear the clutter logistically from the day, it will create such a more, I think, impactful posture and platform for you guys to create beautiful work. So that would be my biggest tip, is figure out ways to solve problems on the wedding day, and they will sing your praises to all of their guests and future potential clients.
Yeah, it is so true. Like,
Kelly,
as you elevate your brand, it's so much more than the service you provide. Like, it's the experience you provide too. And I'll say it time and time again, that if a client had a poor experience with you on the wedding day, the way that they view their final product with you, whether that be the gallery of images or the wedding film that you're delivering with them, that's going to be viewed in a way that maybe has a little bit of a sour taste in their mouth. Whereas, like, if you were just such a pleasure to work with, that you served everyone was a part of the wedding day, whether that be the client, whether it be the family, whether it be the creative team, like, go into that wedding day being like with a true servant's heart, and that's going to be seen and recognized, and it's really going to set you apart. Like, I can't even begin to tell you how much that's going to set you apart amongst, a sea of filmmakers or photographers that are, more concerned in the end product that they deliver to the client. Like, the point A to point B has to be a smooth transition, and it all starts with, when you first walk into that getting ready room, if you haven't had a chance to converse with the client beforehand.
Yeah, absolutely. Could not agree more. I think the way that people feel on the wedding day and how you specifically make them feel will 100% translate to how they view those photos. It's the lens in which they see themselves, really. If you were, and Kelly, you and Paul are so great doing this, and Taylor, we haven't worked together yet, but like, you just ooze positivity, like, you guys bring so much comfortability because you're constantly providing direction. And I love that, like, when we've worked together, I feel like almost we're on the same page, like, exactly with what we're telling them to do. It's like, either you're going to say it or I'm going to say it. So like, one of us is going to be like, hey, move your arm here, or like, walk this way, smile at each other. Like, the more that you can give people direction, the more that you guys can, they can feel that much more like themselves and feel much more confident, which leads them to feeling connected. And when they feel connected, they feel like themselves and they look like themselves. And then they see the photos and they're like, gosh, Garrett or Kelly or Paul or Taylor, they captured me in my most authentic self. Like, that is his smile. It's my husband's smile right there. Like, that's how he looks at me, when we're on a road trip and like have a belly laugh. Like, that's the moment that I want capture my wedding day, and so I just love that you said that, because it's completely true. So
yeah,
good.
I was going to say the same about you. Like, you're just the most positive presence. I'm sure you get that a lot on like client feedback after the fact. Like, I'm sure you do. Like, my biggest thing is everyone always comes back saying, you were such a calming presence. You were so calming. And I don't think I really realized it for so many years. I'm like, really? I think we internalize a lot as filmmakers. We have all these things that we're managing throughout a wedding day. So inside, we're probably like buzzing with so many things that we're problem solving 60 different things in a minute. But, making sure that, like, even if, the venue's on fire, you're still calm, cool, and collected through the entire thing.
That's it. Yep. It's just like being on stage, you know, if someone's wardrobe malfunctions, you just pretend like it never happened, you keep moving, you know? And I love that. And not just with the couple, because I think for a second, we need to sort of remember that for me, at least in this level of luxury that we're all kind of jumping into, is like, my client now is no longer just my couple, although I love my couple and like I serve them, do all the things we just talked about. I want them to have the most incredible experience because that's why we're there. But my client is now the planner because that's who hires me almost 95 to 90, 100% of the time. So, you know, we talked about problem solving for the couple, but really, truly, we're problem solving for the planner as well, and the venue and the people that really have pulled all the pieces together. It's the same reasons why, you know, if you are a problem solver, that's truly what a planner I think is there to do. Obviously, make the beauty and like all of that, but they're there to put out the fires. They're there to, you know, they're almost a therapist more than they are a planner on the wedding day. And so, yeah, just remembering that too is like, how can you solve problems for the planner and anticipate needs for her or him as well? Because that will go such a long way. They're going to say, man, Garrett's not just a photographer. Like he's like a team player, you know, he's here to be here for me too, you know, and that's a powerful thing. Like it's almost, you become an extension of their business. And when you're in that level of their circle, gosh, they'll bring you everywhere, you know? So I've found that to be really successful for me. And, you know, just honing in on those 5 to 10 planners that I like love working with. And I feel like we really jive and who have brought me into their inner circle. It's been really special. And I actually enjoy my work more, you know, because you build a relationship with this person. So it's been really, really sweet. I just wanted to kind of mention that as well.
Yeah. You mentioned a couple minutes ago, kind of this concept of like maximizing moments and bringing out the best in people. And I'm sure that applies to the couple and maybe also like creative partners. I would love to hear a little bit more about that.
Yeah. I mean, I think that comes from the very beginning stages of working with them. And again, this comes back to, if you do have the opportunity to connect with your couple before working with them, it can really help you in a lot of ways. Some of those ways that I do that, the maximizing moments, you know, figuring out who are the most important people on the wedding day prior to walking into that day. You know, if you can figure out that grandpa is really important in her life or his life, you know, maybe they're at old age or they have some sort of sickness that they're fighting, you know, figuring out who are the most important VIP people that are there, and then figuring out how can you tell the story of their relationship. So, you know, for example, you know, after the ceremony and grandpa and grandma, they can't walk very well. They just got out of their seat or whatever it is to give them a kiss. You know, sometimes like as photographers, we're fumbling through the shot list to make sure, okay, who's going to be the next person? But like taking a step back and realizing, oh my gosh, she's standing next to grandpa right now, who's like stage 3 cancer. And like, it's a miracle that he's here. Don't worry about the timeline right now. Take a shot of him giving her a kiss on the cheek. You know, those are moments that I think, you know, over the course of years, you start to realize they cherish. Like, you know, I just had an email come through 3 days ago from a mother of a groom who her mom just passed away. And it was a terrible, super sad, quick thing. And she wrote to me how grateful she was that I prioritized taking a picture of her mom and dad, who's the grandparents of the groom, just together, like making sure that they had a photo of the two of them on the wedding day. And I actually have a separate list. They're called like extra portraits or whatever I call them. Basically, they're there for my second shooter to know these are the like 10 extra portraits that we really, really want to focus on the wedding day, that they probably won't even tell me because this is their first time getting married. They don't know what are the photos that I'll probably want. And I don't even talk to the couple about them. I just have them in my back pocket. And if I see grandpa and grandma together, or, you know, the newborn niece or whoever with her dad, like these are the shots that end up, I find my clients loving, like adoring. They blow them up. They use them for Christmas cards, and they're not often talked about. You know, they're just a set of portraits that are kind of the gold. And I always have that involved in my process. And so I think it's helpful for me to have these like 20 shots kind of looming in my head on the wedding day. And then when they are presented in front of me, I'm like, boom, this is it. Like, let's maximize this opportunity to grab it, because the couple is going to walk away being like, oh my gosh, Garrett got this shot. Like, how did he do that? And it's just based off of experience of seeing what's worked and what hasn't. Does that help answer that question?
Yeah. No, that's so good. Yeah, coming at it with a game plan and being the expert, like you just said, this is their first time getting married. They don't know what they want or what they need.
Totally.
But
Yeah.
you do. Like, how many weddings have you shot? You know what I mean? Like, we know how to anticipate, and that's what they're hiring us to do. And so kind of taking the lead and being the expert in that moment is like such a great way to approach it.
Absolutely. And there's no formula too. Like, I've got this shot list, right? But there's, like you said, being flexible, I think, is so important. And I've actually been kind of throwing around this idea in my head of like, I don't know, maybe it's future content or something, but like, when you think about the idea of empathy or compassion, it's like truly feeling what other people are feeling. And so if you can jump into that space in a way that is greater than, yourself, like, what is this person feeling right now in this moment? What is he or she experiencing, and how can you come alongside them and be flexible? You have your set of things that you want to get done in the day, but they also have their set of needs. And how can you have empathy and come alongside them and say, well, we're going to do this right now, but like, maybe this isn't the best thing for them. Maybe they need to, have some time to connect and like read their vows and have some more getting ready, first look experiences and portrait time. And we'll take portraits after, like we'll do that. We'll talk to the planner, we'll get some great golden hour shots of them, and not forcing moments to happen. I think we can often get stuck in that as creatives, like, oh, well, I have to get this, especially for video. I really have a heart for you guys, because like, you have to put a full story together. How do you do that if you only have a certain set of moments that you had available? But yeah, I think just really being strategic and emotionally engaged with the couple and seeing what do they need right now, because that will go a long way when it comes to that final product when you send them that film.
Yeah, that's so good. And no two wedding days look the same. And I think that's a way that we can just, by understanding that, a better way that we can go into the wedding day with that game plan in reading our couples, whether we've met them before on the phone or Zoom, or if we're meeting them for the very first time. Again, as you kind of level up your business and you're meeting less and less couples, I mean, I think all of us would collectively agree that we do prefer, if you can, to talk with the client beforehand. I don't know, maybe not Taylor. Taylor's like, I'm good.
I feel very neutral. Like, no, I'm happy to do it. And it is always great, but I'm not like, oh man, I didn't get to talk to them. I'm like, it's okay. Like, I don't know.
Yeah.
I mean, and I have had plenty of great experiences going into a wedding day. I'm sure you have too, Garrett, where you met them for the first time. And by the end of that 10, whatever so hours together, we're like best buds, like they really trust us. And that's such a cool experience to be able to not only receive, but to give to our clients too. And so I just kind of want to encourage people who are listening that, feel a little bit concerned about the fact that they haven't met with their clients or held multiple meetings with them beforehand, that we can still do our job really well going into it's a little different, definitely. I wouldn't say that it's like the ideal scenario, but we can still do it well and serve our clients in wherever they're at in their comfortability, if that's a word.
No, absolutely. Yeah. Well, and I would say too, is like, kind of going with that empathy idea, is like, kind of take note of the questions they're asking you when you get there. If they're asking you a lot of questions that are information based, they're probably an analyzer. Like if they're asking things about like, well, when are we going to be at the first look or whatever, there might be that boss type, asking questions about, how long you've been shooting, or I don't know, just like be aware of what they're asking you. That might help identify who they are, what type of person they are, and how you can serve them as well. Kind of going back to those 4 buyer types. And the more you can understand how a person's wired, the more you can serve them, and so it kind of goes back to what we were talking about earlier. It's just like, how can you figure out what their greatest needs are? Are they super subconscious about the way they look? Like, give them tons of direction, even for the groom. Like sometimes he gets really aware of like, is his bow tie off? I like, even if his bow tie isn't off, I'll just go up and reset it, because he's like, cool, Garrett's got me. Like, it's all up in their head. If they can relax and feel like themselves, especially before the ceremony, gosh, they will look back at their photos and be like, man, he got it.
Yes, that's
So
so
good.
true. Actually, one of my really good friends, she would always go up and kind of like gently like fix a piece of hair on the bride,
Hmm.
and she would tell me, and I that always stuck with me, is she's like, if I find a bride who really needs more of that cheerleader,
Yes.
friend on the wedding day, someone who's looking
Hmm.
out for them, you know, other brides might not want you to be all up in their business. They might be more
Exactly.
that boss type that want to
Hmm.
like just do it all themselves. But if you
Yep.
do find a bride that is wanting that, even if their hair looks perfect,
Hmm.
just by going
Yes.
up like you do with the bow tie, just
Yes.
pretending like they maybe had a little bit of hair. I'm like, if you're watching on YouTube,
Y-
I'm like adjusting my hair a little bit.
Yeah.
um they're like, so like like you just see like a sigh of,
Hmm.
you know, they're just like they feel taken care of, right? Like
Hmm.
so yeah, just always like looking for ways that you can like best serve them, you
Hmm.
know, even if it's not a real needed tweak. Like sometimes it's just that checking in and
Yes.
reassurance of like, hey, I got you.
Yes, that's right. Yep.
Yeah.
It's so important. And yeah, like we talked about earlier, like they will walk away telling their friends about you. You know, I had a bride recently who texted me the day after. She's like, "Oh my gosh, all my guests kept coming up to me and saying like how wonderful you were." You know, like that's the greatest feedback I can receive. It's just like when guests feel that, you know, it's another thing for the couple to feel that, but when they walk away feeling that way, like it's just like that's the wedding high to me, you know, like I'm like, oh my gosh, I could do this forever. And so just I just love what we do. Like what a gift to be with people on such an important day, you know, and create an experience that matches the level of sacredness and positivity and joy. You know, if we can rise to that level and not bring that down to a different level of anxiousness or stress, like if we can elevate not only our businesses but their experiences, like we all win together, right? So that's always my goal. It's just to really rise to the occasion and be the best version of myself possible, because that will bring the best out of them as well. I say bringing the gold out of people. That's my goal every time, because there's gold in everyone, even if they're like, you know, kind of stuck in their mind. There's something beautiful inside of them. It's like, how can we bring that out? So
Garrett, another really cool offering. You just have such a heart for like the sacredness of marriage and wanting to see marriages thrive. I think that's somewhere on your website, right?
that's
See
right. Yep.
marriages thrive.
Yeah.
That's always stuck with me.
Hmm.
Can you talk a little bit about something that you and your wife do together for fellow married couples?
Yeah. So, you know, about 5 or 6 years into shooting weddings, my wife was also getting her grad degree in marriage and family therapy. And you know, when she graduated and started becoming a therapist, we just have a huge heart for couples specifically. And um, we it's funny because we both work with couples but in very very different spaces. Like I'm working with them on a very happy day, everything's great, and then she's working with them and maybe not the best day. You know, it's been a challenging season for them, they're going through a lot. And so we thought, you know, how can we be creative and bring um, you know, our two professions into one space alongside the same heartbeat for like wanting to see marriages thrive. So we created a retreat. We just kind of went big. We've been going to Paris prior to this for about 3 or 4 years, really got to know the city very well. And we're like, what if we just had it in Paris, you know? So we did. And we hosted 4 couples. One of them was one of my past clients, and the other 3 were other couples that came. And we stayed in a beautiful 4-story Airbnb type building, boutique. And it was beautiful. It was like, um, 5 minutes walking distance from the Eiffel Tower. So every morning we'd walk down the Eiffel Tower, me and one of the couples, and we would take portraits of them and tell their story from a photojournalistic kind of perspective, and then come back, have breakfast, and then Meg would walk them through the content of what she was working on that day. So each couple got a portrait session. They walked away with just feeling like empowered and the most romantic city in the world. So it was a really special experience. We hosted one after that in San Diego, and we had young kids and moved across the country since. So we still have a huge heart for this idea, and we want to continue to see it flourish. So I would say in the next couple of years, maybe hosting one locally in the States, and then internationally is definitely the goal again. So you can find more information about Sustained Marriage Retreats on my website. If you just go to the top right corner, it says Sustained Marriage Retreats, and sign up for the newsletter. And we'd love to have you on a future retreat.
So
Amazing. I
fun.
want to go on one. That sounds fun. Taylor, we should do one.
Yeah, there
We're
you
the
go.
couple like together. Or
No,
like bring us?
we're dragging our husbands with us.
That's awesome. Yeah, that would be so
Yeah.
fun. Oh my gosh. Yes.
Yeah. Well,
That's
cool.
awesome.
I love that. I love that you have that something that you're not a husband and wife team, but that's a really
Mhm.
cool way that, you can work together in that way.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's been really special. So once these little kids are not so little, we can go back to Paris and continue on. So yeah.
Well, Garrett, again, you just exude positivity and warmth, and you can feel that in your imagery and through your website. There's just consistency on all fronts. And I would love to hear how those who are listening can follow your beautiful work and get in touch with you, maybe through DMs or whatever. Where can they find you?
Yeah, great question. My website's Garrett Richardson, 2R's and 2T's.co. So that's .co. And then Instagram, just Garrett Richardson, 2R's and 2T's. And that's my business name there. So feel free to write me a message, email. I would love to interact. Like I love connecting with people, and this conversation is so big for me. So I'm so grateful that you invited me into this space, and just love what you guys are doing to create vulnerability and authenticity in this environment. It's such an incredible industry that we get to be a part of. So thank you for leading the charge and for inviting me to this conversation. I really appreciate you guys.
Thank you for joining us in this conversation. If you enjoyed this episode, please help us reach more filmmakers just like you by taking a screenshot and sharing it on social media. Don't forget to tag us at The Level Up Co.
And join us again next week, same time, same place, as we continue to level up the industry together.